Hey everybody, you have David Abrams here today on the Demio Discover Show along with Kevin Z, or Kevin Zicherman as I like to call him. Thanks for joining me, man. Really appreciate that. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, man. Appreciate it. But I just wanted to mention this Demio is slick. This is top-notch webinar. It's probably one of the nicest interfaces I've ever seen. So,
Well, thank you. That goes to our team and to Wyatt and the whole Demio crew for setting this all up. And it's just an amazing platform, guys. But thanks so much again for joining us. We have again our hourly show here, our live show, guys. This is totally interactive, so make sure you put into chat. You have questions, you have thoughts. Love to hear them. We have public chat set up, so just write in, say hello to us, guys, and we'll be here for the next hour. We're going to dive into Kevin's story, kind of learn a little bit about his journey, discover what lessons he kind of learned from there, and we'll have a lot of fun along the way. So I guess, Kevin, we'll just start off right here. It's 1 o'clock already. Would love jump right in, get right into the action. So I guess super transparently, would love to know your entrepreneurial story. Man, I met you at a number of events. We've hung out. We've been in masterminds together. And you're so inspiring to me as far as what you've built and the companies you've built and how hard you work and what you think about. So I think everyone would be really interested in learning kind of how you got to the place that you are.
well, thanks, David. Appreciate it. And hey, to everyone on the call as well. And just a quick background story. I don't want to make this too much like a resume kind of thing, but many years ago, I was in the corporate world. Like many of you may be on the call, I used to work for the man, right? I used to have a job. I used to be in marketing. At first, I was very marketing focused. I was very creative, so I really wanted to do a lot of corporate marketing. And then I really moved into sales. I found that really sales, you just make a lot more money being a sales guy, closing the deals with commission. So I kind of moved over to that. And we're talking about 7 years ago right now. I was working for Canada's biggest media company. I'm a Canadian. I'm up in Toronto, Canada. So I was working for our largest media company, the equivalent of one of the biggest media companies in the U.S., massive. We had 92% of overall reach in Canada, and I was selling the ads for it. So needless to say, I was making good coin. But I wasn't satisfied. Every single day I would actually, get in my car, go to work, had my private parking spot, right in the front road. I was treated really well, but it just didn't do it for me. And like maybe you on the call, you also feel the reason you're an entrepreneur is because you're just sick of going into a mission and kind of driving somebody else's dream. And that is really what got to me and what the pivotal point. So I kind of had this little entrepreneurial itch behind me about thinking, even though life is great, I don't want to be building somebody else's bank account. So I was trying to think, how can I get out of this job? How can I build something? How can I build some recurring revenue? How can I get into a business where I don't necessarily have to work every single day, that it's not based on my last sale. It's based on the community and based on the software, for example, I build and the people who pay me every month to use that. So I was thinking, and really the kicking point for me was in a meeting selling digital media. So I was a digital media rep. I was selling banner ads and selling websites and everything digital. And I was paired up with traditional marketers. And maybe there's some traditional marketers on the call. And what I mean by that is TV, radio, outdoor billboard, the old school kind of marketing. And we would go into these upfronts together to kind of secure major budgets from major companies. And they would always tell us in this meeting exactly how much they're spending on media, of TV, of broadcast radio, and then digital. So one time in this major upfront, it was a $4 million purchase of media. And we walk into the room and they say, we have some good news and some bad news. What do you want to hear first? And I say, all right, well, give us the bad news first. And the bad news was that they're cutting their budgets in print, in broadcast, which is TV, and they're moving it all to digital. That was the good news. And needless to say, I'm in there with my counterpart reps, and their jaws drop. I mean, they are seeing their commissions and obviously their department's revenues going down, and digital is going up. And this is, again, 7 years ago. And I'm thinking, you know what? There needs to be a very big shift here, because that digital part of their investment was primarily in mobile. And mobile marketing at the time was just coming out. It was mobile banner ads and inside little WAP things. The iPhone kind of just was like in its second or third year. So it was just picking up speed. The Android started coming out, and I'm thinking mobile's everywhere. These little phones that people have are no longer just phones. They're super powered computers, and they're offering everybody all the information they need. So that was the driver that made me jump ship. I literally walked in the next day. I went to my boss with a resignation letter, and I said, look, I don't know what I'm doing, but I quit. And I'm out of here, because you know what? I can't bring it inside myself to come in every day and speak to these reps and sell this media that is going, I'm making a really small percentage of that. I think I can do more. So I left the corporate world with that motivation, kind of seeing the vision of mobile marketing. And I then started Brick and Mobile. And So Brick and Mobile was primarily geared towards selling mobile and digital services to local businesses. I had a great team. I was driving it locally, but something inside of me said, I'm building websites, I'm building mobile websites, and I'm doing WordPress. I'm using kind of old school or really archaic kind of ways to do it. It was working, but it took a long time to do. And I thought, there has to be a way to build mobile websites more easily. There has to be a way where you can just kind of push a button and have it just, put out this MVP for a website that I can then go take and sell. And then once I make the sale, I can then, put all the bells and whistles and charge a lot of money for it. So I built a mobile website building platform and started using it. I was doing very well locally. And it came to a point where I was, in my reach of a local business. And those of you who do any local marketing know that you need a local sales team. It's not a product phone sale. It's very much a face-to-face person selling jobs. So for me, is like, do I want to go build a Groupon style sales force and have thousands of reps around the country knocking on doors selling mobile websites? Or do I want to allow other people to use my software that is really kick-ass, that builds mobile websites in a snap, and I have all the training, all the marketing, all the materials that I used to close my deals? I then created a business in a box called Brick and Mobile, and we sold that very well. And that's kind of the beginning of where my entrepreneurial kind of story started off. And up to date now, we now actually have a white label Wi-Fi, social Wi-Fi platform that I can maybe talk about later. But we really much, with any entrepreneur, and the reason I'm mentioning that now is because I could have just, gone with Brick and Mobile and rode that wave and mobile websites. It's all great, but the key of entrepreneurs is that you got to take your winnings and not just spend it and not, be in Ferraris in my garage. You got to take that money and reinvest it in new businesses to try to build an empire. And that's what I'm trying to do here.
Well, I think that's, first of all, amazing story, man. And it's so funny, every week we do these stories and I feel like everyone has very different stories, but they're all so similar. There's this path of getting to the point of vision or getting to the point of I can do this. And then there's the mental shift where you're either quitting your job or you're just starting on something. And let me ask, when you had that pivotal moment in your job and you realized I can do this, did you have fear? Did you have savings, or were you just based on your vision? You wanted to do it. You need to do it.
Yeah, great question. And I skipped a little bit of the story, which I'll now go into now. So when I quit my job, it was at exactly the same time that my then girlfriend was finishing law school. So it was a little bit of a two thing. I said, she's finishing law school before, she goes to be a corporate slave in the corporate world. There's a little bit of a window where she could, travel. And at the same time, I was like, I have this entrepreneurial itch. I have to scratch it. So when I quit my job, it was actually peace, and I went out to Asia. I went to Southeast Asia. I went to Thailand and to Bali, all over Indonesia. I actually proposed to my then girlfriend at the Victoria Peak in Hong Kong. So I came back from this 4-month, I'm going to just figure out what I'm doing. But I kind of just drank and partied for 4 months, and I came back to Toronto, and I'm now engaged, and I'm like, oh shit, I have to buy a house, and I have to now start a family, and I have all these expenses, and I still don't really know what I'm going to do. And I think that sometimes that pressure that, I want it, but I don't know how I'm going to get there, and the back against the wall really is what gets that drive going. Because when I felt that pressure of getting home, did I feel this is the time that I need to take action. It was the time where my brain started working. It was always in the back of my mind, when I was out on a beach in Thailand, you're thinking about it, but you're not thinking about the actions that need to take place. And what's most important about that is that when you have a goal or something that you want to strive towards, simply just thinking about it is not going to get you there. You really have to do a work back schedule and say, all right, if I'm going to sell my company for X amount of money, what happens? What's the step before that? What's the step before that? And gradually you'll work yourself back to where you are now. And you'll realize that it's all happens one step at a time. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have to have a plan. And the plan is very important. And I think the plan with pressure is what drives everybody. It's either, you hear stories about people, I was down to $17 in my checking account, or I'm in overdraft. And that's when it hit me. Why didn't it hit you when you had $1,000 left? Because it's really when people are in their despair, when they're at their moment of this is do or die, I find is what brings the best out of people.
Man, I totally agree with that. I think it's the pressure situations. It's last week we had Joe on, and Joe was saying, or 2 weeks ago, he said, sometimes you have to take the leap, and on the way down is when you figure it out. And so let me ask you this. This is kind of a good question, because you kind of had the idea of mobile. You like the idea. You saw the vision for it. And you talked about the working backwards plan. I think that's amazing. It's an amazing way to kind of goal set. But how do you find your big goal? Did you struggle to find that? Because I think that's a hard thing. So many, and I've been there where I kind of I don't know what I really want to do. Where is that passion? What do I like? How do you find that goal? How did you find it?
Well, so it's a great question that I can actually go into with a little bit of a story. And so a cousin of mine, he works very heavily in the Valley, and he speaks to entrepreneurs and venture capitalists and all this stuff. And he comes to me and he says, there's three reasons why people become an entrepreneur. Number one, because they're unemployable. Literally, they can't keep a job. Number two, because they're passionate about something. They feel like, I need to save the world, so I'm going to go do this. Or something annoys the shit out of them. Like something is like, I hate how this happens. And I think that's with you guys. Like webinars suck, right? The whole idea of just running webinars sucked, and you guys are watching this and it's killing you inside. Like there has to be a better way. So any of those three reasons are the reasons why you become an entrepreneur. And for me, I think one of the drivers was like I was passionate about mobile because I saw the future going to mobile, and I saw that this is physically going to change behavior. So it wasn't just like I can make a lot of money. It's an important part that every local business needs. And at the time, I know Walmart, the big stories about Walmart, Home Depot crushing local business. It was more important than ever, especially with local consulting and local marketing, to have another way to communicate. So that's what mobile marketing did. But for example, in my Wi-Fi business now, the reason I started that and the drive and the itch towards that was really I just thought that free Wi-Fi sucked. I mean, I was actually continuing on with the same story. I was in my honeymoon in Argentina, and I was running this brick and mobile business, and I continuously needed internet access. So every day I'm asking for Wi-Fi, and I either needed to ask people for a password, or the Wi-Fi was slow, or it didn't work. And that just annoyed me. And if I turned on my data, I would get dinged for like $300 a day in data fees, and I wasn't ready to pay that. So that was like that itch. I'm like, this whole experience of public Wi-Fi just completely sucks, and I need to change this. And it became a mission. I couldn't sleep at night. I wake up in the morning. I'm like, I need to fix this problem. So I think those of you who are thinking on the call about starting something, don't just start something because somebody else is making money in it. Don't start something because you just want to do something except what you're currently doing. I find that those businesses based on those premises actually fail. You have to find something that you're either super passionate about or something that just annoys you so much that you're going to get that motivation to solve that problem. And the third one, if you're unemployable, that's where maybe you got to look at other options. But I think the three reasons about why you become an entrepreneur, you got to really find the ones that motivate you from the inside, and those are the problems to solve and the things that bother you, I think.
Yeah, totally. And I had a big lesson a couple of years ago. I was running my agency, and we partnered with this great group, and they were bringing big projects in, like $15,000, $20,000 projects to us, working together, and we were building equity on the back end, and it was really exciting. We're working with amazing multi-million-dollar brands and stuff like that. But we kind of all sat down at a meeting, and someone said, if we're just chasing money here, there's no real purpose to what we're doing, then none of us will ever achieve greatness, and like the company itself won't. And we all looked around and realized that everything that we were doing, as cool as it was fueled 100% by money, and there was no real like passion in it from what we were doing. We were just doing it to like, hey, we could make money off these companies. And it was a big eye-opening moment for me in that you have to have a real passion or love for what you're doing and find real reasoning behind it, because making money at the beginning of your journey makes sense. Like you start because you want to make money or you want to get your living expenses paid for, but then you realize quickly that everything else that comes with it, like going through the fire and the headaches and the nightmares of it, like you better have passion or belief or love for what you're doing. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to get through it every day.
It's true. The engine can only run so long on the fuel of money. You really need that passion. That's why, something that annoys you, you got to feel, you got to fix that issue. You got to find that problem. It's not just the paycheck. I even, to be honest, like when I'm interviewing staff, if the first thing they ask about is salary, that you're just not the person for us. Like we really think that you got to be in on the concept, the idea of the mission of creating something special, because if you're not, you're just average. And if you're average, you're okay, but you're just average, right? Yeah. So that's what really I think people on the call have to think about. Do something special. You don't have to do something different. Just do it a little bit better than the next guy in line.
Totally understand. And that's awesome. So let's go back to some tangible things here. So you did brick and mobile for a while. You set up the sales team. Like, so maybe what would be some, sales or, you did a lot of sales training. What would you say were some of the key sales training things that you learned in this part of your journey that you've now taken to even MyWifi business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually just did some sales training last week on this specifically, and I think it's one of the biggest parts. When you're selling anything in the world, and I'm talking right now, let's say mobile marketing, local marketing, if those on the call are selling reputation marketing, social media, whatever you're doing, it's digital. or you're selling something using a new medium to likely somebody who didn't have it when they were growing up. So you're talking to Joe, the restaurant owner. He's used to reading the newspaper, maybe color TV, who knows? I don't want to generalize with age. But when you go into this person, you're trying to sell them something. If you lead with the details, just sale over, sales done. So we know this with Wi-Fi marketing. If you come in there and you try to sell a router, you talk about internet speeds, you talk about connection, done. You got to go in thinking about the result. Think about what that business owner wants. That business owner is not up at night thinking, man, I really wish I had an optimized Facebook profile. He's thinking, I wish I had more clients. I wish I had more customers. I wish I had more revenue. So you always have to lead with the benefits of how your service and your offering is going to change that owner's life and livelihood and so forth. And you don't want to promise the world. You just want to be within what you can realistically deliver and leave the details out. So for example, if we're selling social Wi-Fi, you want to go in there to the business and say, hey, I was wondering if you'd like to build an email list and have an automatic way to email your customers directly after they visit your location. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, I can get into it, and you have to spark the interest. Too many of our partners and other partners will go in and start talking about the nitty-gritty details, like, I have this hotspot here, and it has 2.4 gig, and done. So you got to always talk about the benefits, and really, you got to sell the sizzle, not the steak. You got to go in there and sell, exactly what the benefit is, get them sold on, yes, this is what I want to achieve, and then what they're paying you for is the results. They're not paying you for the product. So always. I think that's one of the biggest things.
I absolutely love that. I think that's so integral. I mean, it's so easy, especially whether it's even digital or a physical product, to make sure that you're focusing on what's in it for them. So the benefit, the end result, what they're getting. Because if you talk about details, if you talk about the technical specs, you talk about anything like that, like you said, you just glaze over people. And I made that mistake so many times. I've had other smaller softwares and I've tried to sell people, or even been on sales calls or sales pages where it's like, oh, this allows you to do so many things. I'll get really technical and talk about all the cool stuff, but there was no benefits. There's no benefit driven sales. And for most people, they don't care how it works. They don't care about the time that was put in, what technology was used, just the results. They just like if I try to sell Demio by talking about the technology behind it, you wouldn't care. All you care about is you can connect with your audience faster and easier with a very simple platform.
Yeah, no lag, fast, good quality, quick and easy. That's what people care about. And at the end of the day, use Demio because you'll make more sales.
There you go.
Right? That's really what matters. So I think that's it's important for everybody in their messaging to realize that. And not there's a fine line between sounding like you're a used car salesman and being the person that's going to realistically deliver the benefits that you're selling. You don't want to promise the world. You don't want to say this, 1980 Volkswagen's going to drive you for the next 10 years. It's probably not going to happen. You got to always be realistic in what you're offering.
So let's deep dive on that. So how do you find that balance? Because if you're selling with benefits, where do you find the balance, especially when you're just starting?
So I like to underpromise always in our sales, and I always train our partners to do this as well. So if you go into a local business and you're selling X, promise X to what you know you can achieve 100%, and then deliver Y, which is X plus the extra benefits. Always go in with a pitch of, I'm going to drop this in here at no risk. I'm going to give you refund. I don't love the refund guarantees because you're always leaving the door open to somebody to just pull it, even if it's working. Yeah. So I kind of say, you have a satisfaction guarantee and you have 30 days for me to prove this to you. In some cases, like Wi-Fi, you can show results right away. So 7 days is what I recommend to go into the business. Drop it in, promise something small after 7 days. Come in 7 days later and say, hey, not only did I give you this, but I also gave you that. And that's the best way to go there, because once you have that down, you've established trust, then you don't need to promise benefits anymore. Now you can start talking about details. Now you can start talking about how you're going to optimize things, and you can talk about the connections, and you can then talk about all the details. And what I was saying previously is you can't lead with that. You can always talk about it later. So you got to lead with realistic benefits that hit exactly what they need. You got to overachieve that promise, and then start talking about the nitty-gritty. If they want to, they may not care about what exactly you're plugging into their location and what it does, but they just have to care that the results that they got already will continue. And that's, I think, the best way to sell anything. Our focus is obviously local business, offline marketing, where you are typically with a business owner, or just like this. I mean, a benefit of webinars and software like this is that you can get a whole bunch of business owners on the call and do a one-to-one face-to-face. I mean, I'm in Toronto, you're in Florida. right? And we are just like we're here. So this is really looking at technology and how it's changed people. Trying this a few years ago would have been choppy in the browser. Now it's like, it's great. So yeah, it's using tools like that and promising and getting in front of the client, because at the end of the day, the people are buying from you. They're not buying your product. They're buying from the person.
That's a huge thing. They're buying from you. So relationships, trust, transparency, all those things become extremely important. Now, you said something that I thought was really brilliant, and you said it kind of fast. So I just kind of want to circle back to it. But you said you have a baseline that you give them. So you're going to say, hey, we're going to do this in 7 days. And just kind of a side caveat here. We used to do 30-day trials, and we took that to 14 days, and now we've taken it down to 7-day trials. And we've seen even higher conversion rates on those. So just kind of a cool thing for those of you guys doing trials. You can always shorten trials, and sometimes they're even bigger wins. But you said, you give them 7 days to achieve something, right? And it works fast for Wi-Fi. How do you find that baseline of what like metric you want to give them? Like, what is that? How do you search? You're saying like, okay, we want them to get 100 leads in 7 days, or we're going to just say that they're going to get more leads. Where do you find that small win when you're first kind of building the product and getting to market?
That's a great question. So I could use our product again for an example, but this applies to anything. So it's not just social Wi-Fi, it's anything. So you go into the business, you say, what's most important to you, to the business owner? Is it revenue? All right, what of that revenue is important? Are you looking to build an email list? Are you looking to increase social engagement? Are you looking to get more Instagram followers? Are you looking to get people to read your blog, to download your app? I mean, how are you measuring that objective? The first answer they give you is the only thing you should worry about, I think, in the first 7 days. So if they say, I have a million things, you can't do all that in 7 days. What you can do is do one thing. So with Wi-Fi, for example, I like to always stress to a business and lead them into this being the most important thing. You got to build an email list. And this is not only for offline, online, internet marketing, the money's in the list. If I have a restaurant and I have 1,000 people that come to my restaurant in a month, if I don't have their emails, I'm like kind of counting on them to like voluntarily come back versus having a way to reel them back in. So I always tell a business owner, regardless of anything, even if you own a restaurant, you want to sell it one day. If you sell a restaurant with an email list of 20,000 customers, that's like that's a whole next level value that wasn't around 20 years ago. So you got to get that business owner thinking that way. But that being said, let's say we're talking email, and I say currently if they're offering Wi-Fi, I say how many email addresses have you captured via Wi-Fi in the last month? Their answer is 0 because they're not using a product. They have no way of doing that. Another maybe open example is how many Facebook fans did you get? How many new likes or fans did you get in the last month? They'll answer something like, I got 13 or something, which is good, almost one every couple of days. And hey, great. So let's use that or one of those as a determination. Let's build an email list or let's get you more Facebook fans and we'll count a week. So in a week, how about I get you 20? You got 13 in all last month, and in the next week, I'm going to get you 20. It's like, sure. Let's see how that works. So with our product, we plug it in, people connect, they connect with Facebook in order to use the Wi-Fi. We capture all those details. We got the email and the social engagement. We have a report that's printed at the end of the week, and I show it to that business owner that doesn't show 20, it shows 50. And that's in 1 week because you're now capturing the people, their business. You're not just relying on somebody to go on Facebook and then to, magically click just because they were there. People don't do that. But if they're in your business and they're connecting, which people do because they're addicted to these things, and they use Wi-Fi and they do it as part of that flow, then you're capturing their real audience. And the key with that too is, and the little sprinkle on top, the overpromise is I say, not only did, these 50 people who I'm giving you a list, not only do they have their email addresses and the social engagement, I have their first name, their last name, their gender, their profile pictures. I know exactly how much time they spent, when they come back, how often they've been here, and I'm going to give all that to you in a report. And that's like, holy, like you didn't talk about that before, but now like I'm sold, and you can hopefully on the call can see, regardless if it's this product or something else, as a business owner, you'd be blown away. Be like, this is great. I trust you. You're in it for me. It's a great way to show your value.
That's amazing. So really, I love the part about asking them a question. So you're getting back from their language what they're wanting. So having that personal touch, really deep diving into their pain or what they're looking to accomplish, use that as your selling proposition initially. Under promise with a baseline, give them a really solid baseline that you can crush. So you're laying that level of relationship and honesty up front. So this is where we're kind of expecting. And then you hit it out of the park, you over deliver and you blow them away. And then you give them the rest of the features and benefits and everything else that they got. And that's a close right there. That's an easy close after 7 days.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to throw a little bit of an add-on to that, a little really ninja trick that I'm going to share with everybody on this call. So you're talking to a local business owner, you're talking to any business owner. If you need them to really get going, sometimes you'll do a 7-day trial. You might not even get them to agree to that. You really want to show them
Mm-hmm.
trust. You got to use this line. Use it on an email, use it on an SMS, use it on a phone call. You say, if they tell you that, their number one objective was building an email list, and then you pitch them your thing and they're like, okay, let me think about it. Okay, cool. That kind of means like no, right? So what you want to do is follow up with an email, SMS, or text message, email, SMS, or phone call saying, hey, I was up last night thinking about a way to get you more email addresses. And the way you say it, I was up last night thinking about your problem,
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously, I mean, what is a business owner? I know that I do. I'm probably sure you do. And I think most business owners or any entrepreneurs on the call think about their business 24/7. And when they're at night, when they put their head on their pillow, they think about their problems. They think about ways to fix those problems. And if you say to any business owner, I was up last night thinking about your business, that's just
Mm-hmm.
like, who is this person who's like feeling the same worry and pain and concern about my business that I do? I've seen deals close on that line. So I just wanted to throw that in there, of a little add-on.
That is absolutely gold, and I'm so stealing that. That's amazing. That is it's about trust. Like you said, it's just about building that relationship, building that trust. And that is a great line, because you're showcasing in just a short sentence that you truly care. Like, you went above and
Sure.
beyond. You're not just selling a product, because everyone's selling something to someone. But if you truly care about people and about their company and about their results, that's huge, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, totally.
So cool. So listen, let's, I want to take some time before we kind of get into a question and answer segment, and deep dive a little bit about, you talked about the selling process, but kind of talk about maybe some of the struggles or journey that you went on to even create that business, the Wi-Fi business, because listen, I heard you describe it and talk about it in our mastermind and stuff like that, but it still blows my mind how you even kind of did this whole thing. I would love to know more about it, and some of maybe the struggles that you've hit and some of the wins that you've got from it.
Yeah, totally. So I could say that when you have an idea, sometimes it seems trivial. It seems like it's easy to do. I can tell you firsthand, and you know this, but software is not an easy thing to do. You got to really get your ducks in a row. This is why, like, we sell a white label primarily because I know how difficult it is to do this. And there are 1,001 people probably who think that they just thought about the same idea, net new, that we have, but it's difficult. It's hard. So one of the number one struggles that I had was underestimating the effort. Another struggle that I had was finding the right business partners, and this is why I'm currently solo. I have staff, but never jump into bed too early with somebody in business, I would say, because I had other people who had similar ideas. They wanted to start things, and it didn't really work out, and it was just a waste of my time, I'd say, and money and resources and mental energy. So if you have an idea, go with it. If you can do it solo, just rock it solo and just get a good team behind you. Because a lot of the times that I was worrying about things, once I finally got the right people in the right positions, is when I stopped worrying about it. And when I stopped worrying about the little things is when I was able to think about the bigger things. And the bigger things is really what it takes to scale a business. If those of you who are out there thinking about getting started and want to, build, I hear people who I have an app idea. Well, like, that's great. It's right now just an idea on a piece of paper. It's worthless. And I don't want to burst your bubble, but you got to think of everything involved to get it done. So when you're looking at something like that, my biggest struggle was getting that. And I have a semi-technical background. I was always like, I love computers. I was 20 years ago saying that computers are the future. People call me a computer geek, and who's laughing now, right? I mean, the idea is you want to be able to understand what you're working on. And if you don't, even if you think you do, get people, there's always somebody out there who understands it better, and you get them on your team. I think that's one of the biggest things to avoid struggle. That speaks to the struggle that was experienced, and then the struggle being relieved, I think, is what most of you should be looking at to fix that kind of pain. But yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think business, and I say this all the time on these calls, but business is really about putting the right people in place to carry out an idea, like to carry out your vision. And they're like, when you hire people, you're not hiring them so you can tell them what to do, so that you can like lord over them and manage them. You're hiring great people to tell you what to do. Like you want them to know more about whatever job that you're hiring them for than you do. So like when anyone that I hire or work with, like I say, tell me what would you like me to do? How should we do this? And I literally listen to them to either create the systems or tell me what, should this be done? Because if you're hired on the staff, you're there for a reason to actually build it out. So you can find great people across the world, and you can find amazing people that, you can incentivize with small equity, or you can use profit sharing as add-ons to salary. So people that are just super, super smart, they're getting not only paid, but they're also getting a portion of company growth, and you don't have to always be in bed with partners. It's really amazing that you can do it that way.
Yeah, totally. And that's primarily why in my businesses, I'm staying away from investors, not because, it would be good. It was just, you don't want a boss. You kind of want to do it yourself. You want to bring in trusted people around you that will contribute to the bottom line. You want to have somebody, like you mentioned, our staff here, I always ask them how to do it. When I have CTO, I don't tell him, hey, I want it to be done in this exact way. I'm like, what's the best way to do it? You tell me. And that's important. And I don't want to, blur the line here. In many cases, a lot of you on the call will have a VA where you've done the job yourself first, and you're very much telling them what to do, and they're doing more of filling in the blanks. That's cool, and that's necessary. I find that most jobs, as any entrepreneur, you got to do the job yourself to understand it, to find efficiencies, and then you got to train somebody else to let it take it off your plate. The entrepreneurs who are stuck, and this actually I should mention got me stuck for many years. I tried to do everything myself. I'm like, you know what? I know a little bit of Photoshop. I know a little bit of WordPress or ClickFunnels. I'm going to go sit here and, work. And that's what bogs most people down, is that if you are the only person trying to build a house, I mean, the house is going to take you 10 years to build. If you have a team, you can crank the house out in 3 months, like, totally different time frame.
How do you change the mindset of thinking I'm saving money by doing it myself?
So a great question. I'd say that you have to ask yourself, what would I do if money wasn't involved? And if you find yourself like doing things for your business that you enjoy doing, but is not necessarily making you the most amount of money, just like quit, outsource that right away. I found that myself, I like graphic design. Like I like building funnels, and I'm guilty of this too. I like kind of jumping in there, but the time that I'm spending building funnels is the time that I'm not spending doing biz dev or sales or other stuff like that. And so it's important to, number one, recognize if what you're doing is what you'd like to do, which is like, rainbows and fairy tales, or is it like, what do you need to do now? Like, what is the number one thing that you, as the person in the business, absolutely needs to get done now? And if there's other stuff that has to get done that you enjoy doing, just hand that off. So that is one of the drivers. And also another driver is calculating your hourly rate. So think about yourself and how much money you want to make. If it's, let's say I can pull out a calculator, but just throw some random numbers. I want to make $1 million a year. That's how much per hour. So if I ever have to do a task, if I can outsource that task for less than what my hourly rate is for me to do it myself, then without hesitation, outsource it. I used to cut my own grass. I used to pull my own weeds. I don't want to sound like a prima donna or anything, but like I enjoyed it. It was a Sunday afternoon kind of thing. Now it's like, look, I could rather spend time with my family. That's worth more to me in that time. It's more value to outsource all the little things that, I could do anything myself. But do I want to? Is it worth it? Because time is the real asset. And when you're outsourcing, you're buying your own time.
I absolutely love that. And I think it's so true. You have to have the recognition there and be able to split that. And I listened to a video from Dan Martell, who's a really, really great SaaS guy, did a lot of amazing SaaS products and software and stuff like that. But he said there's like 4 quadrants of time, whether it's like production level work where you're doing like small things in the business, like doing graphic design is a $10 an hour job that you could hire, right? And then there's like, I totally want to butcher this because I can't remember all 4 quadrants. But the next one is like
operations, I'm sure, like
management, operations, and then strategic work on the company. And like each one has a different value. Like strategic work could be $1,000 an hour versus, management could be $100 an hour because you can manage 10 people doing 10 jobs. Then there's like, operational work, and then there's doing it in the hour. So you have to like kind of really see what job is in what quadrant and make sure that you're putting your time in different areas. And I can honestly say like some of the things that aren't my favorite things to do are in some of the higher quadrant areas. And I have to pull myself and recognize like I'm doing things that probably aren't the best for time, but they're the best for the company. So there are days where it's like, it does feel like a job, or you're doing things that you don't necessarily want to do. And you always hear people are like, oh, do what you want to do, find the passion, follow what you love. But some days you can't. Some days you're doing what's best for the business, and you're putting the right people in place to do their best. And, that's how it goes though.
Yeah, very true. I mean, there's a saying, I think artists are great, but starving artists is because they're doing what they love, but it's hard to monetize.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a fine line between doing what you love and like, is it actually going to make you money? The best business is when doing what you love makes you money. But that's not always the easiest thing to do. And I think what happens is a lot of people who do it for the money end up being miserable. A lot of people who do what they love and it's not easy to monetize don't make money. Not to say that you won't be happy. I think everybody is happy with what they have, and they have to be happy with what they have and make the most out of it. But there's also that opportunity where you can do what you love as a part of something bigger, but you don't always have to be working on the things that you like to do, because that is a failure in most entrepreneurial journeys, when they end up doing too much of the dirty work and they get bogged down and they get burnt out and then they quit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, number one thing that I always look at, and like I'm so guilty of this, is that I try to look at this little sheet every day, like the things I should be doing. And it's like, strategic stuff, it's, the betterment of the company. And the last one is don't get burned out. Because like that's such a huge thing for all of us as entrepreneurs or business owners, or even team members. Like burnout is so real. I have someone that's dealing with burnout right now, and it's so easy to get hit by because it's just stress and overwork and not enough sleeping and all the stuff that comes with moving fast and the hustle.
So. Yeah, it's almost like you have a concussion. Like you got this little cloud over your head. I've had burnout before, and you wake up in the morning, you just lose the drive. It's like, I know what I need to do, but I'm just going to snooze a little bit here. And then, that starts the day on the slow momentum, and it's hard to get out of that pit. And I think it's one of the biggest challenges with any entrepreneur is to have a longer term vision and honestly, keep going back to your goals. Goal setting is hyper important, making sure that you have realistic and achievable 1 month, 6 month, sometimes 3, but 6 and 12-month goals, 3-year goals, and revisit those and let those motivate you and look at them even daily. There was a point when I was burnt out, I had to look at my goals daily. I literally printed it out on a piece of paper, put it on my little cabinet window in my bathroom. I open up my medicine cabinet, and it would be right there every single day in my face. And that's what helped me a lot, actually. It's about 2-3 years ago when I was building the Wi-Fi thing. I'm like, oh shit, I got to rebuild this whole thing because I didn't build it to scale. So yeah, no, but we're all good now. We're all a long time ago.
Well, I totally agree. I did the same thing. I still do the same thing. I look at my goals every morning on a sheet, and some days I have to look at multiple times. When the tough times come, you got to just remember what you're doing it for, and it's really hard to do. But let's go ahead. Let's switch over to some questions here. I saw one from Julian here, and maybe you want to talk about this. I don't know if you do equity incentives or vesting inside of your company, but he asked, how do you incentivize with equity more than just the paycheck, but also protect yourself for when developers leave? So I can talk about that. We do that, but maybe you want to talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So what I always do is I do a vesting period, and I make it at least 2 years. And I started off on a growth. And if at any time in those years somebody leaves, obviously before the vest, it's gone. If it's vesting, once it's matured, if you leave before maturity, it's also gone. They don't like it. You know what? If I'm going to give somebody something, I think it's. I've been in positions. I've seen companies offer % equity, and the second that somebody gets that equity, they're gone, and then they still own the equity, and they're not contributing at all to the business. And all the other owners that have equity are working every single day, and the person who just walked away maintains it. So, although to protect myself, I always make the vesting period longer, and I always make it vest in its entirely, and I always nullify the contract if ended before the final vest date, which is usually down the road.
That's awesome.
But I also add a clause there to make it fair. I say, let's say we're going to vest up to 2%, and we're going to do it like 0.25% every year for the next 8 years. Well, and that's just an extreme, like that's not the timeline we use. But let's say that was it. Or I'll make it easier. So 4 years, 0.5% every 4 years to a max of 2% in 4 years, right? If the purchase happens or if a buyout happens before that period, we'll max out at the 2% anytime before 4 years. So as a developer, as somebody who's working towards that goal, won't say, hey, you know what, if I do such a good job that it doesn't, mature before the end date, well, I'm going to give you full compensation if that does happen.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. And I've never done a contract where you don't get after the vest schedule after a certain amount of time. But you said something before that was really interesting, is that if people talk about paycheck initially, it usually showcases that someone is only interested in money and they're not interested in the long-term goal. So Julian, one of the cool things with vesting is when you make these contracts, and all you have to do is go to a lawyer and they'll draft you a vesting contract. These are very boilerplate contracts. They're just vest schedules. So you get a certain amount of equity either every month or every quarter or every year, however you kind of organize that, where they're released stock options after every certain period of time based on their length in the company. But the way I typically do is I just give them whatever they state. But I'm really looking for someone who wants to buy into the vision, because the idea of equity is that there may not be distributions on equity. It's not the same as possibly profit share, which is, we have money coming in, you're going to make some money off it instantly. You're playing the long-term game. They're coming in to be a part of this company, to see it succeed, to go through the hard times, to go through the great times, whatever it is. You're trying to find people, incentivize them outside of the paycheck with saying your contribution to this company means a lot, and you're going to be rewarded for that with equity. And that's kind of what you're looking for, Julian. And just let me know if that makes sense in the chat. Awesome. So Indy asked, Kevin, if you had to start again, and I guess this is everything, your entire entrepreneurial journey, which has spanned a while, what would you do differently knowing now? Which is always a huge question.
Great question. I would say really have a very detailed plan. Because when let's say, and I love metaphors in business, especially, war metaphors or poker metaphors. I find that there's like those two metaphors I always like have every place in business. But let's say I'm use a journey metaphor. If I'm about to go on an entrepreneurial journey and I'm in my boat and I get into the Atlantic Ocean and I start going and I don't have a map and I don't have GPS, guess I'm not going far anytime soon. So I think it's important to have a very well-defined goal. And not to say that I didn't, I would just say that a lot of the times in building the business, I underestimated what was involved, like I said. So it's meeting earlier with more qualified people than yourself. Don't try to be a superhero and search Google and think you're going to find the answers. And don't be scared to pay a consultant for their knowledge, because there's a reason why they're consultants and why they've done well. Find somebody who's done very well in your industry who would be open to sharing knowledge. See if they would do that voluntarily. If not, pay them. And have them tell you what you should be doing. That'll save you a lot of time, I think, overall. And find a proven plan to execute.
I think that's gold. I think the fastest way to, and this is totally stealing this from Wyatt, but the fastest way to get something done is to find someone who's done it before. And let's say a consultant's time, and this is like very rare that you'll find a consultant this expensive, but a consultant's time is $1,000 an hour. If that consultant in 1 hour can save you months and months of hard work, mistakes, failures, burning money into the wrong development team, or like building the wrong things or the wrong product, is it worth $1,000? Absolutely. Every single cent of it, because they'll put you and move you faster in the journey. So that's huge. Now, my second question to you, Kevin, is just like listening to that, what you would do differently. You said, I would do a detailed plan. I always kind of have this kind of like split dichotomy about plans. One is like, you want to have a plan, but as soon as you're in the ocean and you're on your map, you have your journey guide, you hit a tsunami, and everyone's going to do that. Everyone's going to hit the storm. What do you do when your plan is now kind of thrown to the wind a little bit? How do you kind of readjust, or did you have to do that yet? Have you had those experiences?
Yeah, big time. I mean, when we were building the platform, we kind of built it in one way, where, after getting the right people involved, it's like, I knew that I thought I could just take this, and build those who build code. I thought I could just take this code and put it onto a bigger server and it would just, work. And I'm just really minimizing the decision-making process there. But we spent a lot of time developing something that we had to rebuild. So I think just really, when that happened, I thought about quitting. Really, I said, well, what do you mean this code is like kind of useless? Like, everything I built will work, and it will work only to a certain point. It won't allow us to do all these added features that we want. It won't allow us to scale it, to add the real value and where the vision would take us. Wow, we're like kind of back to square one with development. And that's something where I really looked myself in the mirror and I said, is this something I want to do? It's going to cost a lot of money. I have to reinvest. I mean, I actually just did a webinar on this where I had a decision to make. I built a platform that was great. It worked. It was cool. I could have just left it with no more features and let cruise like many people, many product owners, and I'm not, anybody, but those who are not in it for the long run, who don't have that passion, are not the people you want to buy products from. And not saying the products aren't good, but if the products that have matured and they're not developing it anymore, it's only going to, it's the best it's going to get, and it might stop working because the world changes, and if it doesn't adapt. So with that, knowing that, I kind of had to face a question where, do I want to like now rebuild this whole thing and continue with my dream, or do I just want to like steady it off and make my money, put it in my bank account, buy some cars, whatever it is that people do with their money? I thought, I'm going to reinvest this, and I want to like really, that's the entrepreneurial drive again, about saying that I want to take all the money that I made and push it right back. I haven't taken a single dollar in salary in this business to date, because I am reinvesting everything. And that is kind of, when that tsunami hits, which was kind of for me in that respect, is this something that I want to redo? Is this something that, is there a follow-up plan? Do I have a second or third plan to bring me back on course? I think that's the biggest thing, getting back on course and finding a way to circle back.
I love that answer. And I can say I relate to you so much because we had to do redos 2 times on Demio. So I know what it's like when you hit that moment and you hit that wall and you're just like, oh my God. But yeah, I mean, there is always the decision. And for those of you guys who are planning to build your own thing, there's going to be a moment when you have to understand, are you doing it for the long haul or the short haul? One is you're sacrificing salary for quite some time, and you might not make any money from that venture, and you're going to reinvest everything into your team and to scale because you believe in the project in the long term, and risk is higher than ever, and there's a chance that you're going to lose everything and all that time and effort and money, but what you're gaining is experience and knowledge, and it's a teaching moment that you'll never get anywhere else. So even if you don't make money and you're making money in other places, but you're building this business, I mean, I can't, even just from my Demio journey itself, like the knowledge that I've gained in 2 years is insane. And I'm sure you could say the same thing. Like if you ever, like let's say for the worst case scenario happened, but you had to start over, would you say that like you're a totally different place?
Oh yeah. I'd say if I had to start a business tomorrow, I would do it completely differently than I did years ago, which is why, and I'm listening to myself, the consultant, because I had that experience, and that's why you pay consultants, because they've gone through they've made the mistakes before you have to make them again. So I think that's the biggest thing, that if I started, I mean, this is why with MyWifi, we were able to scale us, really quickly, because I built brick and mobile. I made those mistakes. I understood what, the problems were. And now we fast tracked. We've done a lot, more than most people could do in the amount of time we were working on it. And I think even today, if I had to start something anew, which I'm not going to, I got too many things going on, but I know that, that things would be approached very differently. I would go on day one. I'd find out who's done this before. Let's look at their blueprint. Let's analyze it. Let's see how we can do better. And let's build the minimum viable product. And this is a whole other conversation we can talk about. But one of the mistakes I also made was I wanted to build the fastest car in the world. Again, I'm using analogies here. I wanted to build the fastest car in the world, and I wanted it to have 1,001 little features. But all that matters is it needs to be the fastest car. It doesn't need the features. So that's the number one thing. Like, figure out the pain point, the problem you're solving. The bigger the problem, the more money you'll make. And find out specifically what is the number one thing important to solving that problem, and only focus on that. And once you do that, you can then put all the bells and whistles on top of it. But don't waste your time building things that people might not even want.
That is gold. As Jay just said, it's gold. It is gold because if only we could have hired you as a consultant 2 years ago, because we made that exact mistake. We did the same thing. We wanted to make the fastest car with 1,000 features on it. And a year and a half into it, we said, oh God, we have the slowest car with the 5 features on it.
Yeah, pretty much how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, but we went back, we learned from that, and all I can say, guys, is on your journey, you're going to make mistakes. Like even with consultants and stuff, there's still going to be the mistakes. There's still going to be the storms. You're still going to have your moments where you get gut punched. But what you have to do is pause for a second, learn from those mistakes. Say, okay, now what can I say? What can I learn from this? Because it's part of it. Those aren't necessarily bad things. Those are just teaching moments for you. What can I learn from it to make it better? So for us, it was MVP. And we went and relaunched, rebuilt this whole thing and went super MVP. And now a lot of what you're looking at now is add-ons and continual improvements. And every day we're adding to the platform versus spending 2 years building something and then releasing it. You don't even know if it's validated yet from a customer base.
Yeah, totally. We made that mistake too. We built, a couple features in our platform that people aren't using. And I think they're great features. I still do. But, people say otherwise. And it's all about the customer at the end of the day. They're the ones who use it. They're the ones who are on the front lines. So it's important that we always listen to them. And I think that's also a message if you're ever doing any kind of service-based stuff, even just never mind service. And if you're a hairdresser or something, that's service. You got to listen to your customers, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. Keep doing what makes people happy and solve their problems.
I love that. I love that. And so, guys, we got some amazing answers on both these questions, guys. So would love to see anyone else have any questions or want to ask anything while we got Kevin here, who is just dropping gold, as Jay said. Just go ahead and type them in chat, guys, if you have anything else. Otherwise, I guess what I would just like to ask, yes, that'd be awesome. Give a full breakdown of MyWifi. It's such an amazing product. I saw this at our mastermind and I was like flabbergasted. So I'd love, give a little explanation for it here at the end.
Cool. Okay, definitely. So anytime people use Wi-Fi right now, you might use it at a hotel, a coffee shop, a restaurant, wherever you are. There's two ways it's usually offered. It's either blocked with a password or just wide open to hackers and all that stuff. So at the same time, when a business owner offers this free Wi-Fi at their location, they get nothing in return. So we have a product that allows people to connect to Wi-Fi via social media, for example, with Facebook. All a business owner does is take our device, or we integrate with other hardware out there, and we create a social-powered Wi-Fi network that when people connect to Wi-Fi the same way they would normally, they're asked to connect with Facebook. So connect with Facebook, yes, I agree to sharing your information, and then they get access to the Wi-Fi at the same time that business owner captures all the details of that customer, their first name, their last name, their gender, their profile, anything else, any scopes you want to gather actually from that. Now you can get pretty scary with it, but we always recommend just the basics. And then all that data is in our online platform that allows you as the business owner or the agency to hop in and send emails, do Facebook chat bots, do all kinds of great engagement to that customer, knowing who they are, how long they've been there for, how often they've come back. It's pretty much the fastest way to build an email list and to build customer loyalty for any brick and mortar business.
Wow. Yeah, a very cool product idea. Target co-working spaces, he says. Yeah, that's definitely a good area to go after. I mean, you target all kinds of businesses. Which ones are your so you're doing what? So what made you choose white labeling, I guess, is a good question.
So yeah, great question. So when I sell to a local business, for example, we have our product, we have our brands. If I would go to Joe, the business owner in Mississippi, somewhere that I'm not located, if I would try to sell them my brand, they don't know who I am. They don't care who I am. It's very hard to reach those crevices of where local business is really done. I mentioned earlier that people buy from the person, they don't buy for the product. So I realized that a lot of the times these decisions will come down to a local buyer and a face-to-face interaction. And they'll trust Joe's consulting business, but they might not trust my product. So just because of the brand, just they don't know who I am. And I also know that a lot of these products gel well as a package. Wi-Fi by itself is great, but it won't do much for your bottom line. It'll build an email list. But if you don't email those people, what's he going to do? So we're very much a driver. We're the fuel that fuels the marketing. So I knew that Wi-Fi also had to be sold as part of a package. So you wouldn't go in there selling somebody just social Wi-Fi. You'd sell social Wi-Fi with a mobile website, a loyalty program, reputation marketing, SEO, graphic design, kind of everything that you're selling them. This is just another tool in your toolbox. So knowing that, a lot of local business owners, or I should say local consultants, get very paranoid when they go sell other people's stuff, because if they go sell our brand Social Hotspot, if they go sell Social Hotspot to a client and they want to charge them $1,000 as part of a package, and then they go online and they see we're selling it for $199, that's, their secret's gone. So they want to protect themselves, and they really want, and that's what the word they use, as to their brand, their integrity. They want to be the only brand that their client knows. And that's why we went white label. And also white label for us allows us to bring on the bigger partners. We do a lot of work with telcos right now and other large SaaS companies that sell directly to local business owners. And we've layered our technology as a part of their system. So for their clients, and it goes on their bill, they don't know that MyWifi Networks and our company even exists. All they know is that they have a social Wi-Fi product. And that's something that allows us to do some pretty interesting business relationships.
That's really amazing. I always think I always am so interested in distribution ideas, and I think that was just a really smart way to do it. Did that come from just your background with brick and mobile already? You kind of knew how they act because you're in the customer niche already?
Yeah, that's so the real reason I moved that from brick and mobile is that when I was selling locally, I didn't want to build that Groupon style sales force. I didn't want to have 1,000 sales reps around.
Mhm.
I wanted a way to empower other sales reps to do it. And their feedback constantly was, we need this white label. We need white label. We don't want your brand there. We want our brand. This needs to be us. We don't want you to cut our grass. We don't want our clients to go on Google and find out who we're using. It needs to be 100, like literally, it was like some like military secret. Like, this is like, you cannot know who we're using. Everybody's paranoid. So we built white label stuff.
That's awesome.
And we go
That's really
100% white label. SSL, white label, complete SIR, white label, reverse lookup, white label, like all that. We go to the extra extent.
That's smart. And you also do product training, right? So you teach them how to sell it and everything like that?
Yeah, we have a whole business starter package that includes hundreds of hours, I could say, of video, even though you only really want to, you don't have time for that. We've broken it down to, we have all the archives, but we've broken it down to critical steps of how to start your business. We have tons of worksheets. We have marketing materials, a corporate website, brochures, all the graphics, all the text, pricing done for you. So all you got to do is pop your logo in there, put your phone number and your email in there, put your domain name that we give you the website too. So it's totally turnkey. It's like a franchise. When you buy McDonald's, you don't have to order your own cups. We give you everything you need, like everything.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Now, Brad's asking product for resellers. So yeah, white label there. And then Brad asks, what's a splash view?
Great question. Splash view is when somebody logs on to the Wi-Fi. If you've ever connected to a public Wi-Fi, if it's done right, you get a pop-up, a capture portal pop-up. That's a splash view. So the view, it's like an impression of when somebody comes, you get a little thing that slides up on your iPhone or Android or your computer, any Wi-Fi device that asks you to log in. That's a splash view.
Awesome. Well, guys, we're just wrapping up for the hour here. I don't want to go over too much for you guys, so you can get back to work on everything you're doing. But any last questions here for anyone, or Kevin, any final thoughts that you want to add in for people that are on the call still?
Yeah, I think, well, first, if you want to find out more about our business, you can visit wifiwebinar.com. There's a link there. You can watch a video of me explaining exactly how I got the idea, a little story about why I built it and how it all works. And there's actually an offer in there. So if you're interested, check it out. But I want to say more importantly to all the entrepreneurs on the call, follow your passion and make sure your passion can be monetized. And it's easy to say, but I think look yourself, think about what you would do if money wasn't involved. If that is aligned with something that can be monetized, great. If not, find something that excites you, that makes you want to get out of bed at the end of the day, out of bed every day, every morning. That, at the end of the day, you know what I mean. But also something that drives you to a point where you're comfortable with what you're doing. And I just want to say as well, if that's not for you, if working a corporate job is for you, nothing wrong with that. Really, nothing wrong with being in marketing, being in sales, being in whatever you do in the corporate world. Money's to be made there. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, corporate and entrepreneurship, I think, just are two different things.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. So that's great. I'm not going to even try to wrap it up because that was the perfect way to say it. Just remember that if you are going on the entrepreneurial journey and you're going outside of the job and you decide it's for you, it's not easy. So you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. Learn from others. Do what you can to shortcut your journey. We wish you guys all the success. Thanks for joining us again. Make sure you check out mywifibusiness.com, correct?
It's wifiwebinar.com is a better way to get to right to where to learn more.
wifiwebinar.com. And you guys will get access to that when I close this webinar. But all of you guys, thank you so much for coming out. It means the world to us that you guys took the time to join us today. And we'll see you guys all later.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.